God works with His Word. His Word is spirit and life. He sends His Word to heal us, and His Word is light and lamp to direct us. But the Word of God is also more than that. It is our sword. It's our weapon to fight with. In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 16 and 17, we read these words. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you'll be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. The believer is engaged in warfare, spiritual warfare, that is waged against spiritual entities that are in rebellion against God. And because they are in rebellion against God, they want to get us also to rebel against God. And that's where we get into warfare. And so their goal is to convince us that God doesn't love us, God doesn't care for us, that God's power is not as strong as it is, and put doubts about God in our hearts and in our minds. And how do we fight back? How do we fight in this warfare against spiritual forces? And the Bible tells us that we fight back with the Word of God, which is the sword of the Spirit. And so every time Satan brings a suggestion in your mind that diminishes the power of God, that makes you fear the devil more, that makes you feel that you are in a situation where demonic forces are so powerful there's nothing you can do, remember, you fight back, not by getting angry, not by going to drink some special water, not by smearing yourself with something, not by constantly consulting somebody to give you a word. We fight back by the sword God has given to us, the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And the Word of God helps us to claim territory from the enemy. The Word of God helps us to slash every suggestion of the enemy to pieces. And the Word of God helps us to speak and release the power of God into our circumstances. So when the enemy attacks you with sicknesses, you don't just fall to the sickness, you fight back with the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. He attacks your finances, you fight back with the Word of God. He attacks your family, you fight back with the Word of God. Why? Because the Word of God is your sword in this spiritual warfare. This is how Jesus fought back when he was tempted by the devil after he had fasted for 40 days and nights. How did he fight back? He picked the Word of God. It is written. It is written. It is written. We overcome not by our physical effort, but we overcome by the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Abraham used the sword of the Spirit for 25 years to wage a war against his body that was getting old, people who were mocking him, a promise that was delayed. How did he fight back? He fought back by the Word of God. He staggered not at the promise of God. And this is how we fight, and this is how we win, and this is how we overcome. Whatever battle you are involved in, wherever that battle is, God has given you the sword. Don't leave the sword and go and pick something else. Take that sword, use that sword, speak it out of your mouth, and you're going to have the victory. There is victory in your mouth. Release it by the word of the Lord. I am Pastor Mensah Otabil. Shalom, peace, and life to you.